Welcome one and all to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Sean Coleman. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, you are having, once again, a great start to your week. Hope, if I didn't say it yesterday, hope that you and your family had a great 4th, good long weekend and everything. And hey, if you didn't tune into Braves baseball, that probably was a wise decision because we're coming to you on Tuesday night. It's about 10:45 Central, 11:45 Eastern. The Braves are still in the midst of their game in Sacramento right now against the A's. And if you can tell, it's not going well. The Braves right now getting blown out by the A's. Hey, Eli White just hit a home run. So we decided to come to you to talk about some relevant topics that are there. It's unfortunate we can't talk about the game, but we're here to still cover all things Braves. And with me, as always, it is Stephen Tolbert. Stephen, good talking with you again, man. Long time no see. We suck.
Yeah, we suck. We did that show yesterday, which was putting aside the negativity to celebrate a couple of the All-Star seasons that the Braves had. And it took less than 24 hours, or maybe just over 24 hours, less than 30 hours, to just be sucked right back into the mud of just the nonsense that is the 2025 baseball season. Braves go out to Sacramento. They're playing the Sacramento A's. And, they're just getting bludgeoned. Just getting taken out to the woodshed. It's like it was 10-0 after 2 innings, 10-1 now. So, yeah, we were going to do a show after the game ended. The game ended in the 2nd inning, as it were. So we're doing a show now. And, yeah, we've got some topics. I've got some thoughts on how this team and this roster is being managed at the moment.
Absolutely. We'll get into that in a moment. But of course, yes, the Braves right now are getting blown out in Sacramento. If something were to occur by a miracle, we'll certainly switch to that. Don't expect that, though. But let's get to the most relevant topic, the most important topic that has occurred today. And it, of course, centers on Ronald Acuna Jr. Now, if you go back to I believe it was Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. The Braves were playing against the Orioles, and we noticed that both Ronald Acuna Jr. as well as Marcell Ozuna were given the day off, and it came against a lefty, which was kind of surprising. Marcell Ozuna, not so much. Many had been calling for him to get a day off for a while, but Ronald sitting out against a lefty kind of opened a bit of eyes. And then in tonight's game, Ronald was initially in the starting lineup. But I think about 45 minutes or so before the game, he was a late scratch due to lower back tightness. And of course, he was not in the lineup. Stephen, it seems to me as if it's not necessarily that much of a concern. We haven't received any further word. It's probably more precautionary, which you want to be with Ronald right now with this being a lost season. And of course, him already having experienced injury issues coming into the year. But it's what it could mean in terms of the next week or so that kind of, makes you a bit concerned. What are your initial thoughts, when you saw that Ronald was sitting out this game, a late scratch due to lower back tightness?
Yeah, so obviously he was given the day off on Sunday. And he did come in to pitch hit later in that game. So that kind of tells you that he was not actually hurt. It was just a day off. And he was slumping. Scott and I did talk about the fact that it was funny that he was sitting against a lefty that he has hit really well in his career, but they obviously wanted to give him a day off. He did come in at the end of the game and pinch hit. So he was clearly healthy. I will say they just had a 5-hour flight to Sacramento. You could wake up with a sore back. If it was something about the knee, obviously it's a whole different level of concern. Sore back, I'm not going to be too up in arms. And again, with the season being effectively over, any kind of discomfort that Ronald has, just give him the day off. Like there's absolutely no reason to push it. I know people, are concerned about the All-Star game, about the home run derby. I'm excited about those things. I want Ronald to participate in those things, but if he can't, it doesn't bother me. Like his long-term health is so much more important. So even if it's an extended thing, like the season's over. So I saw people freaking out. Like, what are we going to do without Ronald for a week? Like, guys, it doesn't matter. The season's over. So Yeah, any kind of discomfort, any kind of minor injury that he has, discretion is the better part of valor here.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not someone that I don't consider myself to be pro tanking, but in a lost season for a franchise that definitely could use as much of an infusion of young talent into its minor league system as it can get. Listen, losses are a valuable thing right now. That's just the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I'm not pro tanking, but I'm also not going to deny common sense. And so but I think that is something that should clearly stand out when you have, you talk about Ronald, you talk about Chris Sale, Spencer Swellenbach, even Spencer Strider, Matt Olson, Grant Holmes, any of these guys who you are banking on bouncing back or being big contributors to when you hope to contend again in 2026, that's the focus. If there in any way, shape, or form is any concern, especially health related, you take the precaution. You take the necessary steps to ensure whatever you're concerned about doesn't become something bigger. And I think the Braves are smart for doing that. Rare that they're showing intelligence nowadays, but I think they're smart for taking that approach.
Yeah, and Scott and I talked about this as well. Like, at some point, we're going to have these conversations about Strider and Holmes. Like, how much longer are we going to let these guys go? Holmes is going to blow past his career innings limit in not the not too distant future. Strider's obviously coming back from major elbow surgery. Like, how much do you want to push him? Like, yeah, this is a concept that we're going to be talking about for the next 3 months because, like you just said, if it's anybody that they're depending on in 2026, then we need to be smart and we need to be careful and we need to be conservative here. Any kind of bump or bruise, anybody needs a day off or anything, you give it to them because there's no reason in pushing anything in the middle for 2020 for any game in 2025. I mean, this season is over. So, yeah, conservative is the way to go in terms of any kind of player health issue.
Yeah, and I agree completely. And of course, when it comes to Ronald, when it comes to the guys that you're hoping really stand out and show up for 2026, health should be the main concern. Because again, one thing that I don't think that we've talked about enough, underperformance certainly has been the overall, most disappointing factor of the season. But injuries once again are rearing their ugly head. Thankfully, they're not so much long term when it comes to the pitching staff, but just health in general should be the priority to make sure none of these guys experience something that could impact their 2026 seasons. But as Steven mentioned, we do want to get into some discussion, not necessarily about tonight's game, but kind of the management of Didier Fuentes, who started tonight's game, struggled once again, that and more after a word from our partners.
AJ, we're in Vegas right now, and I have not had a lot of time to eat during the day. So
No.
what could we do?
I would love a Huel right now. Vanilla Huel would go down perfectly because when I have to skip meals because I'm too busy doing what you do in Vegas, which is not eat, I need a quick replacement, and Huel is the perfect thing.
I'm a chocolate guy myself. It's got the chocolate milkshake vibes to it. If you miss a meal, Huel can be your answer. If you're looking for a big protein boost, Huel can be your answer. So go check it out. Our friends at Huel are part of today's sponsorship. They've got you covered, spelled Huel. That black edition is a complete meal to feel full, focused, and ready for your day. Little prep, basically no prep. Shake it, open it. Huel has sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. So go to Huel.com/foul and get Huel today with the exclusive offer for the FT fam of 15% off for new customers if you use the code, you know it, FOUL, minimum $75 purchase. Get after it.
With the All-Star festivities starting in Atlanta this week, we're going to let you know right now that our friends from Foul Territory will be doing the show live Monday and Tuesday from the Truist Community Center right next to the ballpark. And starting this weekend, the Truist Community Corner is kicking it 90s style, snap pics at photo ops, score retro giveaways, and jam to your favorite throwback hits as well. Plus, you can meet your favorite Braves royalty like Chipper Jones, Fred McGriff, Andrew Jones, David Justice, and more, all while supporting local small businesses. They're open at noon each day, Saturday through Tuesday. Come watch the show and say hi to the FT guys.
Yeah, so again, pretty cool to see that, the flagship of, the main show, Foul Territory, the part of the Hammer Territory is part of the Foul Territory network of podcasts. The main flagship show, of course, is Foul Territory. It will be airing live from Atlanta during the All-Star game. But before we get into that, we'll discuss that a little bit later this week into next week. I want to talk about Didier Fuentes and expand that a bit, Stephen, when it comes to kind of how the franchise is managing decisions right now. Now, Didier Fuentes came up a few weeks ago, was looking to make a spot start. Then, of course, you had the injuries to Sale as well as Schwellenbach that occurred. The Braves have stuck with him in the rotation, and it just has not worked out. He clearly is not ready, and that's not any type of negative towards Didier Fuentes. It's just the honest truth with him being the age that he is. But the thing that stands out to me, Stephen, is that, yes, I get that they need to have someone throwing these innings, but when it comes to a clear standout performer so far this year of your minor league system, I think that you don't need to leave him in a situation where it's consistently going to be failure. I know you have some thoughts on this. I think this needs to be the last that we see of Didier Fuentes for a while without it necessarily offering any type of dimming of his overall future when it comes to a prospect. He just needs to go to the minors and be a prospect.
I mean, we've talked about this for like 3 weeks. Like, listen, Sale and Schwellenbach went down. And again, like we said at the time, that effectively ended the season. And what that means is 2025 no longer matters. Like, the only thing that matters with Didier Fuentes is his development in the minors. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. He had absolutely no business being in the majors. And that has been pretty much crystal clear from day one. There is not a person who follows this team who thinks Didier Fuentes should be in the majors, except apparently the front office. Because, and again tonight, he just got destroyed. I mean, he gave up 8 runs in 1 inning of work. I mean, he came out in the second, but he never got an out. So you're basically running a bullpen game anyways. I understand that there's nothing good in AAA, but again, you're not trying to win these games now. You're just trying to get through them without destroying one of your best prospects. You know, getting your head banged against the wall every single night in the majors when you're not ready is not doing anyone any good in terms of your development. And the Braves, after Sale went down, after Schwellenbach went down, the Braves should have done one of 2 things. Either call up some of these journeyman guys in AAA that you and I went over a couple episodes ago, or go sign some veterans off the scrap heap that can just do innings, right? A Kyle Gibson, a Kobe Allard. There's always guys like that who are fringe major leaguers. They're not any good. They're going to suck, but they're not your best prospects. And you don't have to worry about destroying their confidence for the rest of their career. It's just live bodies to get you through games. And that's what the Braves needed to do like 2 weeks ago. And so, you know, every single day they haven't done it. And we've talked about it on multiple shows now. We've kept bringing up the same idea. Like, why aren't they adding any sort of pitching, either from AAA or from the free agent market or from a waiver wire, from a trade? Again, not anybody good. We're not talking about buying like legitimate starters. We're just talking about just an arm, just a body to get through the games so that you don't have to leave one of your best prospects who's abundantly clear, who's not ready to be in the majors. You don't leave him out there to die. And that's what they've done. They just hung this kid out to dry. They said this organization needs to send an apology letter to Didier Fuentes. And I hope somebody is in that kid's ear saying, listen, this is not you. There's no shame in not being ready to pitch at this level at 20 years old. That's how it is for 99.9% of all pitchers. They don't pitch at this level at 20. So this is not on you. This is on your organization for being just raging dumbasses, for having this kid pitch for like 3 weeks when he's not ready in a lost season. That's what I don't get. And I tweeted it out tonight. This is some of the most unexplainable roster management that I can remember. It just is. Like, there's no excuse. Even if you want to tank, even if you're trying to lose games, you don't do it at the expense of your top prospects who aren't ready. You do it at the expense of the Bryce Elders or the Kobe Allards or the Kyle Gibsons of the world. That's what you do. You don't do it. You don't wreck the confidence of one of your best young prospects who's not ready. So, like, there's no excuse. None. Whether you're trying to win games or trying to lose games, there's no excuse to do what they've done the last 2 weeks. And hopefully now, I mean, now that they've been like banged over the head with it, hopefully now it is abundantly clear to them. It's been abundantly clear to everybody else. Hopefully now it's clear to them that he shouldn't be up. And they do what we've asked, which is just go get a guy to eat innings. Because now you're going to use probably Jesse Chavez for 140 pitches tonight. I don't know. Like we're recording this while the game's still going on, but like it makes no sense to me. And it's not revisionist issue. We've been saying this for like 2 weeks. Like this is just bad roster management, and there's no rational explanation for it.
Yeah, the eye should be on the future, and I think that's what stands out about it. Over the next couple of weeks, one of the things that we're really going to talk about, I know, we're probably going to have a few guests on who are going to give their opinions on it. We've got the MLB draft coming up next week in about a week as well. We're going to talk about extensively the Braves minor league system. We're going to talk about kind of where the young talent is. And there's no surprise that right now the most promising prospects in this system happen to be starting pitchers. Cam Caminiti was just named Baseball America's top prospect in the Braves system. He's had a very good year. J.R. Ritchie, I believe, is in the future on the NL team of the Futures game. He's had a very good year. Didier Fuentes has been kind of the breakout star of the system this year. That's what stands out. And I know that the Braves have been aggressive in the past when it comes to some of these younger pitchers, but that's not doing any favors to anyone this year. The focus should be on the future. If you want to be aggressive by, giving a guy who's earned it by having him move up to another system of the minors or to another level of the minors, that's perfectly fine. But the focus needs to be on development and putting these younger prospects in the position to have success instead of trying to salvage whatever you're trying to salvage at the major league level.
Well, and that's the thing is like Fuentes would have never been up if they didn't have the injuries. So there was nothing internally that said he's ready. They did this because they had injuries, which is a really stupid reason to call up a guy who's not ready in a season that's already lost. Like, it's very reactionary. It's short-sighted. It's bad. It's just bad roster management. Like, I don't know what else to say. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And even if you're still trying to win games, a 20-year-old kid who's not ready to pitch at this level is not the answer. Like, even if you're like Alex might say, well, we're trying to win and he was our best option. There's no chance in hell he's your best. He's 20. How many guys ever pitch at 20 years old? It's so rare that it ever happens. Like, any veteran that's ever had any success in the majors that is still pitching somewhere is probably a better bet than a 20-year-old kid who's barely pitched above A ball. That's what I'm saying. And there's no rationale for it. Like, there's no path where it makes any sense. That's what I can't figure out. And people have asked me, I get tweeted this every day. What are the Braves thinking with this? And I literally cannot explain. I can't give you even a possible explanation. Most of the time we can at least come up with some sort of logic behind a move. I cannot give you a single rational explanation why the Braves have just let their starting rotation just die on the vine and not done anything to support it after these major injuries, like no AAA call-ups, no waiver wire claims, no, signings off the trash heap, no, nothing. It's so odd. And it's mind-boggling, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is that it seems like that when it comes to the organization, that obviously this year was unexpected. Obviously, no one had planned for things to get this bad this quickly when it comes to how the organization is performing at the major league level. But the one thing that you cannot let happen is you stay idle. You come across as either trying to win at the major league level, and you're still focused on 2025. You can't do that. If it's not working out this year, you have got to be fully committed to doing everything that you can right now to change things. Because you and I have talked about it. There needs to be offensively, there needs to be a complete overhaul when it comes to the approach to how the Braves find success. When it comes to the major league level, you're not only sitting here focused on your personnel when it comes to the players, you're also going to have to likely focus on replacing an entire coaching staff because of how ineffective the current one has been over the past 2 years. So that's the thing that stands out to me. When we talk about this Braves team, what direction are they going to go? It's clear that the direction moving forward is the future, and that's what you have to prioritize. And every moment that you struggle in doing that, that just leaves more and more uncertainty if we will be able to get back on track to be a contender that we all hope we will be in 2026 and beyond.
Yeah. And it would be one thing if this unexplainable roster management was in a vacuum or an isolated thing, but it's just kind of continued a trend of the last 12 months or so, or maybe last 8 months, really since the offseason, where they've just done stuff I can't explain, like the Kimbrel stuff and the Ozuna stuff with the injury, and not really addressing the bullpen at all in the offseason, and not really addressing the rotation, not addressing really the pitching depth at all, which is, right, by the way, has come back to hurt them because of injuries. It's just a continuation of just really odd roster management. And it's one thing if you add guys, if you're proactive and you add guys and they suck, and it's all right, listen, they got hurt. They added some new guys, and the new guys are just going to be bad. And, that's what happens in a lost season. That's not what's happened here. They lost guys to injury and just did nothing to replace them. And now they're just letting their current guys just die on the vine and bringing up a 20-year-old kid who's not ready. It's just so weird. It's so weird. And there's no reason for it. And listen, this is a lost season, but there's a way to go through a lost season correctly, and there's a way to go through it incorrectly. And the incorrect way to do it is to use one of your top prospects who's not ready to just get bludgeoned, and then have to pull him out in the second inning of these games. Third inning, I think he pitched into the third inning in his last start. He pitched into the second inning tonight. There's been very clear signs this is not the way to go. And they just keep going. It's like they've got their eyes closed and their foot, the gas pedal to the floor. It's so weird. So I don't want to, it's just, let's be smarter about this. We can be smarter about this.
And of course, you can expand this discussion further away from the starting rotation to the bullpen. And me and Stephen are going to discuss that in a moment. Not necessarily getting into specifics, but I do think that the bullpen is going to have a big spotlight shined on it when it comes to not only how well it's performed over the past month, but what that could mean when it comes to the Braves and the trade deadline. More in a moment after another word from our partners.
Hey, let's do a little player spotlight thanks to Arena Club. AJ, give me a player this season that you think is underrated and you might want to try and grab his card.
James Wood. I don't know that he's underrated, but Washington Nationals superstar in the making, and the first slab pack I ever opened had him in it. His rookie card, and the value is only going to go up and up and up. And I'm not going to sell it quite yet, Scott. I'm going to hold on to it because after he continues to hit big homers and put up the stats, make all-star teams, it's going to get more expensive for someone to buy for me.
This is his first full season in the majors. Keep that in mind. I think he's underrated. He's on a Nationals team that's meh. Not getting enough attention. He might hit underrated 40 homers.
When he makes the all-star team this year, they're not going to be underrated.
That helps. He's been intentionally walked 4 times in a game. Anyway, if you want to try and find a Wood rookie card, go check out slab packs on Arena Club. And right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack, or if you just want to go with a card purchase, go to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you buy, sell, trade, collect, go for it.
So, Stephen, as we turn to, again, this being a lost season tonight, once again, continuing the downward spiral that the Braves have been in recent weeks, the focus turns to the fact that for the rest of July, again, we have some pretty monumental things that are going on for this Braves team. Talking about, the fact that we've got the All-Star game coming up in Atlanta. Wish it was under better circumstances, but it still has the chance, especially if Ronald Acuna Jr. is available, to be really fun. You've got the MLB draft, which now has more significance for this Braves team than many likely anticipated coming into this season. And then you've got the trade deadline. And I will discuss plenty of specifics about the trade deadline in the coming weeks. But, Stephen, I want to ask you a general question. when it comes to the Braves, when we're talking about focusing on 2026 and beyond, when it comes to their bullpen. Now, obviously, the fact that the Braves did not spend a lot of their bullpen coming into the season, that was a big topic of discussion. Early in the season, it clearly showed because the bullpen was struggling. But over the past month, this bullpen has arguably been the best in baseball. And I know that some immediately want to say, oh, well, it's because they haven't pitched that much. Well, they're still, as a unit, second in FWAR over the past month among all bullpen units in baseball. So the quality has certainly been there. So, Stephen, I ask you this. We talk about what the Braves could sell potentially at the trade deadline. We've mentioned Raisel Iglesias, Pierce Johnson, Aaron Bummer. Some of these guys could have value, especially with how they've been performing as of late. But on the flip side of things, you want to talk about the fact that this Braves team wants to contend, and especially Johnson and Bummer, Dylan Lee, those guys are controlled into next year. Where are you in terms of the bullpen? I know it may make sense to sell what value that you have, especially when it comes to the bullpen and that being, a source of volatility. But I'm kind of also like, you know what? If that's the case, we could still go into 2026 with a really strong pitching staff, including those bullpen guys that I mentioned. Where do you stand as far as the bullpen goes, especially with their performance as of late?
Yeah, so the Braves are going to be selling, obviously. And a lot of it comes down to the offers. And that's a part of the equation we never know, right? We don't know what the Braves get offered. And so if it were me, if I were in charge, I would set my sights on some decent prospects as a return for Bummer, for Johnson, maybe not Iglesias, although Iglesias has been better. I would actually probably try to eat some of the money that Iglesias is owed the rest of the year to try to improve the prospect. And I would set my sights on that, on whatever level prospect you think you can get. And if I get that offer or better, I pull the trigger. Because my thing with relievers has kind of always been, if they're good and healthy now, the chances of them being both good and healthy again next year aren't great. And that's just how relievers work, right? I mean, we saw last year Iglesias and Jimenez were two of the best relievers in baseball. This year, one of them got hurt and one of them was bad for, 2 or 3 months. That's just how relievers work. So it's good to get value when you can. It's also always important to remember at the trade deadline, especially now with expanded playoffs, there's just so many buyers and so few sellers that you're going to have a chance to get value just simply out of supply and demand. There's just not that many good relievers available on bad teams. The Braves are one of the few bad teams that have good relievers. Everybody in baseball, if you need if you have a left fielder for sale, there might only be 1 or 2 teams that needs a left fielder. If you have a shortstop for sale, there might only be 1 or 2 teams that need a shortstop. When you have bullpen pieces for sale, every single contending team wants more bullpen help, especially into the playoffs, where bullpens just get used so much more. So that's my logic, is that they've had good years. They're used in high leverage, at least in Iglesias and Pierce Johnson's case. They have control into next year for Pierce Johnson and Aaron Bummer. So it's not just a rental. There's so few sellers. Everybody needs bullpen help. Like, there's a decent chance you can get a decent prospect. And that's what I would set my sights on. Now, we'll never know what the offers are. The offers might just be shit. And so Alex is like, all right, I'm going to keep them. And we'll never know that. So that's where it gets tough to evaluate from our perspective and to still maintain, a fairness about it. We don't want to be unfair about it. So, but in general, that's my philosophy. Set your sights on a decent return. And if you get it, pull the trigger. And if obviously they want to contend next year, but you can build I've said this before, you can build a bullpen in the offseason. Like, I don't know if I would be thinking about, I think I would hold on to Dylan Lee, because I think Dylan Lee could just be the closer next year. He's that good. And I would probably hold on to Daysbell just because his value is not that high, because he's been hurt most of the year. See if you can get him a bounce back next year. So you can start next year's bullpen with Dylan Lee, Daysbell Hernandez, a couple of the young guys. Again, you're going to be getting prospects back in these trades. You could put your eye on some relievers you like in other organizations. there's ways to do it. But that's how I would generally approach it.
And the other thing that kind of goes into that equation, building upon kind of the, general philosophy. So you're basically kind of, and I get it, you're basically kind of in the thought process of if you can get value for these relievers, go ahead and, as you mentioned, pull the trigger and get that value and see if you can boost your minor league system a little bit. One other thing, though, that I think kind of goes along with your train of thought is that the Braves also have some intriguing arms that they could bring to the major league level who could fill the spots of these guys, and you could see what they could do at the major league level to see if they could be a part of next year's bullpen and future bullpens. Earlier this year, me and you talked about the fact that they haven't really had a lot of success bringing up arms for their bullpen, that developed in their own minor league system. John Carlos Lora, Hayden Harris. I think there's a few other guys who have been promoted recently. It kind of is a bit of a 180 from when we're talking about, don't push starters, but hey, give your bullpen guys a chance to see what they could show at the major league level. But the reason why you want to do that is because when it comes to the bullpen overall, you want to give them a taste of the big leagues to see if they can thrive, because some of these guys could really be valuable not only next year, but beyond. So the fact that the Braves have some intriguing young arms that can step right into the spot that a guy that's traded left void, I think that could add to the equation, and we could see some intriguing arms up in Atlanta to see if they can stick long term.
And one guy I always forget to mention when we talk about this is De Los Santos, who's very quietly had a good year, throws hard, has been a high leverage reliever in the past, has been on some good teams in the past. He's not going to bring anything crazy back, but I was just double checking to make sure I had my numbers right. He's got an ERA. He's got a 3.6 ERA and a 3.19 FIP this season. Like, there are teams that would gladly add that to their bullpen. So the Braves have like 3 or 4 guys that they could potentially move and get something for. So, yeah, and like you said, they could do a 2-month tryout for August and September of some of these young guys who've got potential. And that's the way I would go. I understand the logic behind you want to keep all these guys and contend next year, but that's just not how bullpens work. Bullpens don't work the same way rotations and lineups work. You can't apply the same logic. The volatility of a bullpen is so much higher, and therefore the equation is so much different. And so you have to kind of treat it as its own separate entity and extract value when you can. And one of the best times to extract value from relievers is being a seller at the trade deadline. And that's really the only advantage of being in the Braves position right now, is they're one of the few true sellers with actual bullpen pieces to sell. That puts you in an advantageous position, and you need to take advantage of that when you have a farm system that we've talked about a lot that needs help. And quite frankly, a major league team that needs help. So yeah, that's just the way I would approach it.
And if there's anyone that knows the value that can come from adding quality relievers at the deadline, that's Alex Anthopoulos. He's shown the ability to consistently do that, maybe more than any general manager in the sport. Last thing that I'll mention also is this, Stephen, is that, we talk about selling these bullpen pieces. We talk about the potential of bringing up intriguing arms, seeing what they can do in the bullpen. I also think that if the Braves find, especially a controllable arm that they like out there on the market, you still can be in the mold to potentially buy for 2026 and beyond. You simply, I don't necessarily, I'm not talking about like a 3 or 4 team trade, but you sell a Pierce Johnson, you sell an Aaron Bummer, Raisel Iglesias now, and then you could take some of that prospect capital that you get back and turn it right around to go get a guy that you like, who could come into the mold and be there in 2026 and beyond. So that's the other thing. I'm not looking to sit here and shuffle deck chairs on the boat or anything like that. I'm just saying that that's another route that you can go. So to your point, while yes, it is good to see the Braves bullpen doing well, you would love them for that to be a strength going into next year. I still think you're likely going to get more value out of moving the sensible pieces that make sense, because you have options that you can go with to be able to make 2026 bullpen just as strong or even better.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you bring up, that there are bad teams that buy at the deadline just to get a piece for next year. And you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. You're obviously not buying any rentals, but like if you get an opportunity to go get somebody that's got control that you like on next year's team, absolutely. It would not surprise me if the Braves did that at some position, if they did it at second base, maybe, maybe they're, again, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about Ozzie and where the Braves go position by position. But like, if they're looking for maybe a different look there, like, and if a guy comes available and a deal makes sense for Pierce Johnson, that would not stun me, and it shouldn't stun anybody. Like, that's a real thing where bad teams still do buy at the deadline, just not for 2025, but for, 2026 and beyond.
Absolutely. And so, like I say, plenty more discussion when it comes to what all will go into the Braves stock process when it comes to the 2025 MLB trade deadline. But that is the thing about it, is that we want to make sure that you're going to stick with us. For all those who have supported us and continue to listen and support us, we can't thank you enough. But continue to stick with us. Even if we're not going to have much reason to cover the games, we're going to give you all the coverage you can ask for when it comes to all the other important stuff. The All-Star game coming up over the next week or so, the MLB draft. We're going to have some guests who are going to come on before and after to discuss any and everything when it comes to the MLB draft. Also focused on next year, which could be the most significant draft that we see from a Braves perspective in quite a while. And of course, the trade deadline. You can find Stephen Tolbert at B_Outliers on Twitter/X, myself at StatsSEC on Twitter/X, Hammer Territory across all forms of social media, part of the Foul Territory family of podcasts. Don't forget, Foul Territory will be airing live early next week from the All-Star game. Make sure you check out all the hosts as well as some Braves legends. Check it all out in person next week. Until next time, you know what? Go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory podcast.